with respect by paying them on time. Amen to that. Of course, we agree. But it wasn't just the AFGE. You had the same commentary, the same plea by the National Association of Air Traffic Controllers, the Coalition of Airline Pilots Associations, the NetJets Association of Shared Aircraft Pilots, the Allied Pilots Association, the Southwest Airlines Pilots Association, the leader of the Teamsters, and the New York Steamfitters Union. They're all coming out. These are the constituencies that the Democrats claim that they support, and that's why the unions came on side of the Republicans in the last election. They've had enough of this nonsense. And they've all called on Senate Democrats to end this shameful shutdown. And it is a shame. The Democrats need to be publicly prodded by their millions of hardworking Americans to just simply do the most basic function of their jobs. A rational person would read the pleas of the federal workers and conclude that it is time to end the charade and turn the lights back on. But the Democrats are not rational right now, and they've deliberately ignored the plight of all these federal workers around the country. People are going to remember this, and they should. I want to quote to you a couple of senators over there on the Democrat side. Listen to this nonsense. Senator Mark Warner, the senior senator from Virginia, and this is noteworthy because Virginia is the state with the largest number of federal employees. He claims that federal workers want him to vote against reopening the government. He literally said, quote, "I think they want us to fight this." Fight what, Mark? What are you talking about? We have a clean CR. This is not a partisan dispute. It's ridiculous. Senator Tim Kaine is the junior senator from the same state of Virginia with the largest number of federal employees, and he said, quote, "I work very closely with them, and the AFGE would not want us to cut a deal." What the heck are you talking about, Senator? There is no deal here. We're not talking about a deal. We're talking about a clean CR that all of you voted for even as recently as this year. And here's my favorite one. This is the best quote. When asked about the AFGE statement from the big union, Senator Jeanine Shaheen said, quote, "I had a conversation with the president of AFGE earlier, right after the shutdown, and that was their position then." So let me just translate for you. Senator Shaheen spoke with the head of the largest federal employee labor union. The president of that union explained to her the harmful effects of a shutdown, and then Senator Shaheen went out and voted to close the government anyway and continued to do that more than a dozen additional times. Senate Democrats knew the pain this would cause. They knew about the missed paychecks. They knew the uncertainty of making rent for so many people. They knew about the missed meals. They knew about delayed flights. They knew that our nuclear arsenal and our national defense would be negatively affected by this, and they did not care. They shut the government down anyway to appease the far-left voices of their base. And the Democrats have some soul-searching to do. Are they going to continue to do that? Are they going to run from the far left and do their bidding? Or are they going to do right by millions of federal workers and the American people who continue to show up to work daily without pay? Are they going to do right and reopen the government so that those people are taken care of instead of the Marxist far-left base in their party? That is the question. And we pray that Senate Democrats come to their senses before the situation becomes too dire. On Saturday, this gets very real. SNAP benefits will stop flowing to all those who need it. You're talking about tens of millions of Americans at risk of going hungry if the Senate Democrats can continue this gambit. Instead of taking a simple vote to fund the government, which Senate Democrats have now had more than a dozen opportunities to do, Democrat attorneys general are suing the federal government to try to compel SNAP benefits to flow despite the government being closed and despite the fact that there is no money to do that. Congress hasn't authorized that. The contingency fund for that was something they batted down when the Democrats decided to vote against the CR and shut the government. For Democrats, there's a much easier option on the table. Just go do your job and fully fund all these programs and all these categories of people by voting for the CR. That's it. You don't have to do anything for Republicans. Just do your job for your constituents. Until Democrats recognize the pain that's gone on for so long, Republicans will be in their districts helping their constituents clean up the mess that Democrats are making and help them make ends meet and help them find the assistance, the food assistance, and all these other things that they're going to have to rely upon. And joining us this morning to discuss the Democrats' shutdown impacts on our national defense and on foreign affairs is our great chairman of the House Foreign Affairs Committee and a decorated veteran of the U.S. Army, our good friend Chairman Brian Mast. Brian?
Thank you, Speaker. I think everything going on, it really puts an exclamation point on the fact that we have the greatest population anywhere across the globe. I do want to start just by saying thank you to all of our workers. We have workers whose lives are being very literally affected, and they're still coming to work every day. Those are really big, amazing people. That's our American workforce. So I just want to start by saying thank you to them, all of our TSA workers, all of our air traffic controllers, our ICE, our CBP, our State Department people that I deal with, and to put a point, maybe moving to State Department, because that's what I deal with the most, about the very serious stakes of what is going on right now. Not just with people's lives and them not being able to pay their bills, but with what's going on across the globe. To juxtapose these positions, we have President Trump in Asia right now, very literally trying to make sure that the United States of America is not cut off from rare earth minerals or other things, which is what China is literally trying to do. That's why there was a threat of another 100% tariff, because China was sending around letters saying, all you neighboring countries don't sell to America. So the president is abroad trying to protect our homeland. And we have Democrats here at home doing everything that they can to weaken our homeland. That's a difference of values. And the stakes of those values is the future of the greatest country on the face of this earth. We should pray that our adversaries would be stupid enough to say they're going to prioritize funding feminism in Africa over the food stamps of their own people. They're not that stupid, but apparently Hakeem Jeffries is, and that's a real problem for all of us here. I was on the phone with an ambassador this morning. I'm not going to say where, but we have requests for people to leave embassies abroad because of very real threats that are going on. The people in that embassy are right now trying to figure out if they have cash funding to get fuel for vehicles or to have diesel to put in their generators because they don't have reliable electricity in the places that they're in. Those are the real world consequences. While they're also worrying about their paycheck isn't coming in, can their family back home buy groceries, pay their bill for student loans, pay for the fuel to get their kids to school, or the tuition at their children's school, or all the other things that they have to worry about while they're worrying about can they even get out of country. So those are the difference of values. I guess I would close it by saying this. We need 5 Democrat senators to pull their heads out of their asses and go work for the United States of America.
Thank you, Chairman Mast. Thank you for your service to our country and for keeping the focus where it needs to be on making sure America stays strong in the midst of turbulent times. And you know, what's so sad about this shutdown is that we don't need to be in these turbulent times. It was a self-imposed wound that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer have imposed on the country. And if you look over this last month of the shutdown, you've seen Democrats literally playing a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde game with the American people. On one hand, they'll try to say, it's not us, it's the Republicans. Gee whiz, as the speaker talked about, oh, they control the House, Senate, and White House when they know that they are the ones that are shutting the government down. And then on the other hand, Mr. Jekyll's side, they're saying that they know that they're causing pain on the American people. They admit that there is suffering, but they're doing it for leverage. So you can't have it both ways, Chuck Schumer. You can't wake up one day and say you're going to try to blame it on the Republicans, and then on the next day, you're trying to say that, gee whiz, we know that we're causing these problems. They're admitting they're causing suffering on people, but they're doing it for leverage. And they can't even explain what that leverage is, because they just need to show their radical base that they're having a fight with Donald Trump. It's all it's been about from the beginning. You really want to know who's calling the shots in the Democrat Party? You saw it on the stage this past weekend. Bernie and AOC on the stage with the new leader of the Democrat Party, Mondami. Maybe Chuck Schumer's waiting for Mondami to let him know when he can open the government back up again. But families can't wait because the real suffering is going to begin. It's already been happening, but it really hits home this weekend when SNAP benefits run out, and they know that. But I'm going to go through some of the lies, the myths, the things that they say when they know better. Chuck Schumer just yesterday said, quote, Republicans are in charge of the White House, the Senate, and the House, but they're refusing to do their job. Now, Chuck Schumer's been in Congress since the 1980s. And he knows that every day he's been there, there's been a requirement that you need not 51, not a majority like we need in the House. He was in the House where you did need a majority, and then he went over to the Senate where it's always been a requirement that you need a supermajority. And in fact, when they changed the rules, it's not a standard or a custom, it's an actual Senate rule that you need 60 votes. The rule used to be higher. And in 1975, many of you might have thought Chuck Schumer voted for that rule. He came in just a few years after. In 1975 is when they lowered the threshold to 60 votes. It used to actually be a higher standard in the rules. And so every day Chuck Schumer's been in Congress, it always took more than a simple majority, in fact, 60 votes to pass these kinds of bills through the Senate. And he knows that. So you'd ask, well, why is he trying to lie and mislead the American people? When he makes a statement like that, he knows he's trying to mislead the American people. And yet on other days, he does admit he knows he's causing suffering, but he's doing it for leverage. And so this game back and forth is what the American people are sick and tired of. Hakeem Jeffries, quote, we didn't view the current bill as anything other than a partisan Republican spending bill. He knows good and well that it was a clean CR. If Democrats still to this day don't know the difference between a clean CR and partisan bills, did they stop reading the bills? Because they used to vote for these bills just since 2017. Go look at the facts. Speaker likes talking about the facts. Facts are important here. Since 2017, 30 different CRs, 30 times CRs have moved to keep the government open. And do you know 29 of the previous times Chuck Schumer's voted yes? 29. This 30th time is the only time Chuck Schumer has voted no. And of course you'd say, well, then what's changed if he's voted? 29 out of 29 times before this, he voted for clean CRs. What's changed? This is a clean CR. What's changed is the Democrat Party has changed. Mondami is now running the party. That party has changed. But the American people still have the same needs. The American people, again, the clean CR doesn't solve our differences. We still have big differences that we need to go negotiate, but let's just do it while the lights are on without the American people being held hostage. And of course, the final myth that's been out there for the beginning of this whole shutdown that we've debunked many times, that it's, quote, a total effing lie, that was Chuck Schumer's word, I think he actually used the word itself, that Democrats support free taxpayer-funded health care, free legals. That was Schumer saying that. And then, of course, when you read his alternative bill, his list of hostage demands, the $1.5 trillion spending bill, it includes in it a provision that repeals the verification we put in that says illegals can't get free health care. And CBO, not us, CBO said that would cost $200 billion in taxpayer health care benefits going to illegals. They know that. Of course they know it. And so why would they want to try to mislead the American people by over and over again making those statements? So here you can see it. Time and time again, the SNAP benefits comment the speaker talked about. They were warned in early October that 42 million people could be at risk in just weeks of losing their SNAP benefits if they didn't open the government. They knew that, and they want to play this game of chicken, this Jekyll and Hyde, one day trying to blame everybody but themselves, and then the other day taking ownership and admitting they're causing suffering, but they want to do it for leverage. You can't have it both ways. And more importantly, the American people are feeling the suffering. And this weekend, that suffering gets worse. And we have voted over and over again to prevent the suffering. It's not necessary. It shouldn't happen. And there's a way to avoid it. All they need to do is today, just 5 Senate Democrats need to get courage and say, we're not going to take our orders from Mondami or whoever else it is that are calling the shots over there. We're going to do the right thing and open this government back up so we can get into that negotiation over all of our differences, which are many. But just don't hold the American people hostage while that goes on. That'll bring up our whip. Tom Emmer.
The Democrats have no leader, no vision, no message. And nothing proves it more than the chaos they have caused with their needless government shutdown. We are now 29 days into this mess, and the Democrats have contradicted themselves every turn with no exit strategy in sight. They've tried to make their shutdown fight about health care, while simultaneously demanding that we cut $50 billion in rural health care and give taxpayer-funded health care to illegal aliens. Not to mention the Americans who are suffering right now because critical health care services have been put on pause due to the Democrats' shutdown charade. On the issue of SNAP, Democrats are bending over backward to oppose Trump, using taxpayer dollars to fund frivolous lawsuits. Meanwhile, they are the ones causing people to lose their SNAP benefits by refusing to reopen the government. Remember, all of this could have been solved in a matter of 5 minutes by 5 Senate Democrats if they would do the reasonable and right thing by supporting our clean CR. The same CR that they supported just 6 months ago, and as we've said over and over, that they passed 13 times under the Biden administration. But instead, they'd rather run in circles, tripping over their own feet in the process and hanging their constituents out to dry. Why? In order to attain political leverage and score points with the radical Mamdani and Omar Fata supporting that, by the way, for those of you that don't know, is the Mamdani of the Midwest, Omar Fata, supporting that wing of their party. Take it from the party who essentially wrote the government shutdown playbook. It doesn't work. Shutdowns achieve nothing but hurt everyone. So enough with the political games. Pass our clean CR and let's reopen the government for the people that you were elected to serve.
Well, good morning, everybody. Good to see you again. Let's get one thing straight right out of the gate. House Republicans did our job. Senate Democrats didn't. It's that simple. More than 1 month ago, under the leadership of Speaker Mike Johnson, the House passed responsible legislation to keep our government, your government, open. Meanwhile, Senate Democrats voted again and again to keep it shut down. So before anyone throws around cheap insults like one Democrat member did on social media this week, and I'll just read it. Lazy Mike Johnson has made himself irrelevant and pointless. You know, I always find that funny. When you can't beat us on the issues, what do children do? They personalize it. And that's exactly what this member is doing. He can't beat us on the issues. So he wants to attack our leader, who has done a remarkable job, and personalize it. We're not in 6th grade anymore. But maybe for some people they are in 6th grade. But let's remember the facts. Republicans acted. The Democrats stalled. Mike Johnson has shown leadership, discipline, and focus. And what's lazy I'll share with you what's lazy, is Democrats refusing to do their job and blaming everyone else for the problems in which they created. Because what Democrats are doing is wrong. And Americans, real Americans, hardworking Americans, are getting hurt. I, for one, have had it. And I don't think I'm the only one out there. On Sunday, a Democrat House member admitted to the Wall Street Journal that his party is being pushed by far-left groups. He said the quiet part out loud, everybody. He said what we've been saying forever. He said Democrats were lying to the American people about the reason behind the shutdown. Well, that's a shock, right? It isn't for health care. It isn't for health care, because if it was about health care, they wouldn't have stripped the $50 billion rural health care fund. I mean, come on, Democrats, get your story straight. At least get a good story that you can spin to the American people, but you can't even keep your story straight. Listen, what the speaker said, Ronald Reagan was right. Trust the American people. And you know what? I'll say it again. When the facts aren't on your side, you have to personalize it and you have to lie. But the question right now is, at what point is the pain of the Americans going to outweigh the radical cries of their base? It wasn't when our troops almost didn't get paid. It wasn't when moms and infants were at risk of losing the food off their table. It wasn't when flights across the nation got canceled because air traffic controllers and TSA agents didn't get paid. No. When that happened, Democrats said, every day gets better for them. Really? Maybe that's because they're getting paid while the people who they represent are not. That's what they said. They said pain for the American people was their best leverage. They said maybe it was uncomfortable, but it was worth it to them. Really? Think about that. Let that settle in. Let that just sit for a minute. So now I ask, will it be enough pain this weekend when 42 million Americans lose access to food on their table? Will it be enough when 2 million Americans miss a paycheck? What Democrats are doing right now is absolutely cruel, but it's also dangerous. And I think Chairman Mast spoke very well on this issue, but let's build on that. When our skies aren't staffed, when our borders aren't secure, and when our troops are at risk of missing a paycheck, that is not a political strategy. That is a national security threat. Enough is enough. Americans do not want to be used as leverage. And they don't want to be used as leverage for another $1 trillion of wasteful spending. They work way too hard for their paychecks. They want relief, they want leadership, and they want results. Democrats, please, I implore you, do what's right. Democrats, do what's right. End the shutdown. End the suffering for the American people. Stop, as you say, leveraging the pain. Vote for the Clean CR funding bill and let America move forward. Thank you.
All right, questions? Manu, go ahead.
Given how dire that you expressed for so many Americans right now, how do you justify the administration giving this big, massive bailout to Argentina, as well as calling for an increase in beef imports from Argentina?
Look, we give foreign policy, the execution of foreign policy, to the executive branch, and that's what the president is doing right now. There's lots of nuances about that. He's involved in negotiating trade agreements around the country to the great success and benefit of the American people right now. Dozens of them being worked out. He's overseas right now doing the same thing. And what he accomplished in Japan is a remarkable thing for the American people. And by the way, they've agreed to invest $550 billion into America, and that's good for everyone. So I can't get into the nuances of every single trade agreement with every country around the world, but we're going to trust the president to do what he's doing. He's had a remarkable track record of success for the American people, and nobody in this room can refute it. So I'm going to leave it right there. Chad, let's talk about the government shutdown. It's the main important thing right here. Chad, go ahead.
Can you talk about some of the members in, excuse me, can you talk about some of the members at your conference who have expressed concern about the House being out, or saying that this has gone on, too long, we need to maybe have another CR, or take another approach, or do something on healthcare?
Yeah.
Can you talk about what that is like, and some of the things that you're hearing from your members who are saying, this is really going on?
Well, you all know what I'm hearing from my members because our calls are leaked every week, and we had a conference call with almost everyone yesterday. By our count, there's about 3 to 4 members of the House Republican Conference who have only mildly questioned working in the districts as opposed to being here on the floor. And we talked through that in as much detail as we can on a call that I know is being printed on the front page of all the papers the next morning. But I can tell you that 99% of all the Republicans in the Senate and the House heartily agree with what we are doing. They understand the most important thing and the most important function and the basic and most simple thing that government must do is keep its operation going for the people. That is the first job of Congress. And when we can't do that, everything is paralyzed. And so we have made that the number one emphasis. We need the Senate Democrats to do what they have always done in the past. Don't make me tell you all the facts again. 13 times during the Biden administration alone, they voted on CRs to keep the government going. They know the pain they're inflicting. They do not care because they're more afraid of the radical left Marxists in the base than they are the American people. That's plain and simple. And so it's painful for them, for us to get up here every single day and relate again the simple truths. We have to do that. The repetition is what makes the truth saturate, because most of the mainstream media is giving us headwinds. They're pushing back, as I just demonstrated from you from the results. The research proves what we know intuitively, that the mainstream media, most of the legacy media, is parroting the talking points to the other side. You are not asking Chuck Schumer the hard questions. You're not asking Hakeem Jeffries the hard questions. Not enough of them. They're hiding. And they think that they can appease the radical base because they're more afraid of the voices of the far left corner of their party than they are everybody else. And I think there's going to be a big price to pay for that in the future. Yes, sir, right here.
Religion News Service has tracked 5 different instances in the last few weeks. DHS or ICE agents apparently, or the Swedish support, shooting Christian clergy with pepper bullets, pepper rounds, and rubber bullets. There was viral video of a Presbyterian minister being hit in the head with pepper rounds, and just last week a UCC minister was shot directly in the face with a pepper round by a DHS agent that left his face bloody. I know that you've advocated for religious freedom in the past and celebrate the president's decision to pardon anti-abortion demonstrators. Do you share the concern of these clergy? This is a religious freedom issue that's emerging between the administration and the clergy.
I can't comment on any of those instances. I haven't seen or heard any of those videos, so I'm not going to comment. But I would say, hold on, wait a minute. Let me answer you. Hold on. Thank you. You asked the question. Religious freedom does not extend and give you the right to get in the face of an ICE officer and assault them, if indeed that was what happened there. What I've seen is a measured approach by the people who are trying to enforce our border laws, our immigration laws. And that was desperately needed and desired and demanded by the American people. You might remember the number one issue in the November election last year was the wide open border and the chaos that has ensued by that. So the people are out doing a very difficult job. ICE officers, by the way, are under tremendous strain and pressure. How would you like to do that job if you had to put on the badge and do it? When you know you have the media criticizing every move and you have wild protesters in your face, cursing at you, waving their finger in your face, and sometimes pushing you and assaulting you. Okay? It's a dangerous, risky job. Thank the Lord that there are people who are willing to do that difficult job, to put on the badge and show that kind of courage. We should be on the side of law enforcement. And anybody who's trying to disrupt those operations, they need to be handled the right way. Now, look, all of us want the law to be enforced. We are the rule of law party. Chaos is not an American virtue, the rule of law. But you have to have order, and you have to have peace, and you have to have some people who are brave enough to put on the uniform and go ensure that. So get out of their face and let them do their job. That's what I would say. Down here, yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Speaker. We're getting closer to the November 21st deadline for the CR that you guys passed for almost format. Is it time to bring the House back to pass a new CR with a new date? Is fewer than 3 weeks enough time to finish appropriations?
Wouldn't that be a futile exercise when we have a CR that's been sitting over there since September 19th? If I brought the House back and we passed another CR, it would meet the exact same fate with Chuck Schumer. He would mock it, they would spike it, and they would try to blame it on us. So what would be the point of that? We're all concerned about the timing. The Democrats are eating up the clock. We have very important work to do here, and that's why we're pleading with them, not Chuck Schumer. Look, I think Chuck Schumer and Hakeem Jeffries are irredeemable at this point. I don't think they'll be able to tell Mondami in New York and his disciples that they voted to open the government. I've given up on the leadership. So we're trying to appeal to a handful of moderates or centrists who care more about the American people and will put the people's interests over their own and do the right thing in the Senate. I mean, there's no point in me sitting down with Chuck Schumer. He's painted himself into a corner. I get all that. Mondami it looks like he's going to win and be the mayor of New York City, and Hakeem Jeffries came out and endorsed him. That's all you need to know. Hakeem Jeffries is terrified that Mondami, one of his disciples, is going to challenge him in his own seat in the election next fall. You've already seen that rumored. Some of you have reported on it. So he had to do it. He had to endorse socialism. He had to endorse Marxism. This dangerous ideology that has taken over the Democrat Party, that is what is motivating them. So it doesn't matter what we do in the House. It doesn't matter what we pass. We have to get a handful of moderates over there who care about America to do the right thing. We need at least 7 Democrats. It takes 60 votes in the Senate to pass it. This is not the Republicans. This fault is squarely on the shoulders of the Democrats, and they're the ones causing you the pain, and don't ever let them forget it. Thank you.
Thank you.